Yep, thank you.
All right. And minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion to approve the minutes from November 28th, 2017 as written.
I will second.
Motion's made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Correspondence?
The office received notice from the Springfield Abatement, Inc., who performed the testing for the presence of asbestos on the town hall. The results indicated no asbestos was found.
Excellent.
The office received the monthly report for the fire chief for the month ending November 2017. And that is all I have.
Thank you, Al. Okay, this is not a hearing, but we have a 7:15 discussion with Chief of Police, Ari, the appointment of a full-time officer, discussion possible vote.
Okay, I was going to make a comment on the testing on the booking room.
Absolutely.
The company contacted me yesterday. I forwarded the results up here. I got the formal report from her boss today, so I'll forward that up as well. I'm also going to forward it to Board of Health. We did take the plastic off the room. I've been in touch with Bay State. Now they can coordinate the renovation of the room and we can get it back up to speed. So that was
Okay, and that's just the booking room that they tested?
No, they actually tested upstairs also.
Excellent, excellent.
And they didn't find anything, so.
All right.
In regards to, I believe the agenda says full-time officer first.
Yep.
We've had numerous discussion over the past, actually several years. The Sergeant Flowers retiring as of April 2018. And I had approached the board member. We've had a number of discussions on this. And ultimately, we looked at a lot of options. We looked at hiring additional part-time. That hasn't worked out well for us. We looked at revamping the schedule. That also was not a possibility. We tried to get qualified full-time academy-trained personnel. We weren't able to do that. And now, we also had a couple other plans that were in place that we were not able to bring to fruition. And now, with the approval of the board a couple of weeks ago and the support that was expressed, we finished the process for evaluating our candidates. And we culminated that last week with a formal interview process with the cooperation of the Ware Police Chief and also the West Brookfield Police Chief. And we evaluated 2 candidates, and based on the evaluation, I've got Alex Sinney before the board today for appointment as a full-time police officer. Now, a couple of issues have arisen regarding the training. And one of the biggest issues is that the MPTC, the Mass Police Training Commission, is undergoing a number of changes right now, and we're still looking for a legitimate funding stream. Now, the funding stream was before the legislature in the last session, and at the last possible moment, the funding was pulled, but that issue is certainly not dead. But as a result of that, some changes have undergone in MPTC, and there are no academies available currently. One is starting in February in STCC, and that academy currently has 2 seats in it, but it's too late for us to enroll. I've made a number of phone calls and connections, and we actually had a chief's meeting earlier today, and it appears that the next available academy will be sometime in September or October of next year. The only other option for us would be June. There's a Reading Academy. I would caution that the Reading Academy is roughly a 2-hour commute one way, and it would also be about $350 a week just in mileage reimbursements. So I'd like to rule that one out. What I would like to do is have the board appoint Mr. Sinney tonight to that position. I would like to make his appointment effective on February 17th of 2018. That is a Saturday. It coincides with the work week of the police department. We can insert Mr. Sinney into the schedule, and he will acclimate himself, and we'll put him on a shift, and he will be fully ready to go for when the sergeant begins to either take his accumulated time or he retires at the end of April. So it should be a seamless transition there. Other possible good news for us is that the academy program is undergoing a number of changes, as I said, and currently the academy program is 960 hours, and if we look at that replacement value for that 960 hours, it winds up being, if we go by some contractual agreements, a 24-week academy is roughly $25,000 to replace the shift while the officer is gone. Now, There is talk of an abbreviated academy. They're rolling out the pilot program in January. If that program is successful after they've evaluated the first 2 classes, then they're gonna go with the abbreviated academy, which cuts it down to 17 and a half weeks, which takes roughly $7,000 or $8,000 off the cost of replacing. Now gets us somewhere in the vicinity of $18,000 to replace the officer while he's gone. So that would be something that I have to budget in next year's budget, and I know there's contract negotiations coming up. So I think we've got a lot to discuss. We do need to discuss putting on more part-time personnel, and that's a discussion I'd like to begin with the board also. But if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. If not, I would recommend that Alex Sinney be appointed to the position of full-time police officer, contingent upon his successful completion of the academy and his appointment date effective on Saturday, February 17th of 2018.
Richard?
Well, as everybody knows, I say what's on my mind. I've had conversations the last couple of days with the chief. And as everybody knows, I just think that obviously in the last few years, the role and the requirements required by small town departments don't differ than big departments. But I've always had a very big issue with the fact that I don't think it's up to the town's responsibility to incur the whole cost of educating somebody. You know, if we did it last year, and we do it again this year, and we do it, say, a year down the road, we're looking at $200,000 worth of funds that we have to expend. Saying that, I've had conversations with the chief, with Becky, who I have a great amount of respect for, in town council, and I've given a lot of thought to this, and it's time to get back on track. I do not want to leave the police department understaffed, and I think I'll add to the conversation that the chief just had, that I am not, we've had this discussion between the board members about opening the contract. There's no way I'm in favor of opening up a contract 6 months before we're supposed to open it. I've had conversations with some of the members of the police department and the chief, and there's 3 or 4 things that I think the board has to address when we open this contract up. The pay scale, we've had discussions about putting people in, adjusting that wage scale for somebody comes in on a 7th year, transfer from a different department, he does not go down to the bottom. We're trying to fit something in that we can attract people with experience without cutting their pay. I think we're gonna end up having to put some funding back in that was taken out of the budget last year for some part-time shifts, because I think part-time shifts obviously are a less expensive way of handling the schedule, and I think that some of the scheduling issues that we've had, especially that 4-2, needs to be addressed. You know, the chief needs a 7th man. Mr. Sinney would like the job, and the town needs to be fiscally responsible. How do we get to that point without getting into another year's worth of conversation? I've given it a lot of thought, and again, with conversations with the chief, if that academy is cut down that 24 to that shorter time period,
17 and a half.
it's about a figure of savings about $4,500 right there. I know that this item was in the budget, but like I say, I do not want to start the trend of every time you want to hire somebody, it costs a town of more than $75,000. I think it's just, we have to go in a different direction. But saying that, in my conversations with the chief and town council and Rebecca, it's time we address this. We talked about it for a year, keep pushing the meetings off, but I would be in favor of having the appointment done, not immediately, exactly like the chief said, starting in February, and I think that gives us the opportunity between now and February to start addressing some of these issues. But we have to change the way we hire people. So, that's my opinion. It's, you know, it's time to stop butting heads and come up with a plan that's in the best interest of the PD and the town. The board's primary responsibility is doing a service to the town. So, that's my opinion. I have thought long and hard. As people know me, I go back and forth and I try to look at every angle, but I don't think if we don't go through with this, literally the overtime is going to kill us. That seems to be one of the bone of contentions that this board has taken up numerous of times, that the overtime, we gotta stop the bleeding. And I think if we start with this and we put our heads together, that hopefully we can get on track and start moving forward. I am just tired of the nonsense. So, with that being said, I would support the appointment of Mr. Singh, February 17th.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Nardi?
Just a few questions. Would the candidate entertain the option of signing a waiver to stay employed with the town for 5 years, since we're paying the cost of the education? And I know we've spoken about this with Council Bruce, but I spoke to a couple other police departments that actually are doing this.
I'm aware of it.
And I would like to, I don't know, if that was to be approved and the candidate was okay with that, stating, hey, I'll be here for 5 years, and in 4 years he finds a job in Munson or Ware or something, and it's prorated and we get a year's worth of the education back, I would be in favor of that.
The only thing that I would question, Mr. Nardi, is I believe there's union issues involved with that. It would have to be a side lever.
I agree with you on that.
So as long as I'm clear, you're just asking that he's willing to entertain that possibility?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, I'm just looking out for the town and the expense. And, you know, I wouldn't blame the individual if he found another position that's paying $5 an hour more, because most municipalities pay more than us. So, you know, he's employed, he comes here 6 months down the road, he decides to go to Ware or something, or a surrounding municipality paying $5 an hour more, you know, now we're out. But if we have a commitment in 5 years, I mean, at the cost, I think it's fair. And it just shows that there's a vested interest in the town. And he stated he would, so I mean, I would entertain, you know, entering in some sort of agreement that, hey, I'm gonna stay here. If the town's stepped up and, you know, put the money forward to put me through school, I'll be here, you know.
If, I actually had run a couple of ideas by Mr. Gagner and Mr. Richard. I'd be happy to have those conversations with you. I think there's some good ideas in there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
May I?
Absolutely.
Mr.
You got two
Sidney,
more now.
What?
So you got two more.
you're on camera. You just stated a statement. We're gonna hold you to the statement. I just wanted you to be aware that we would welcome you, but, you know, I think this has to be a two-way street. This is a huge cost and a huge commitment on the part of the town. We expect something in return.
So, there you go.
That's all I got to say.
Is Mr. Stinney a resident? I'm not aware. Yeah, yes. Registered voter?
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever
Not in
attended?
town.
I'm sorry?
He's not. He
No,
doesn't-
not in this town. That wasn't sure on that. Within the 15-mile radius?
Oh,
Chief?
yes.
Yeah, just checking.
Oh,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Okay, you
Me
good?
too. I'm good.
All right. I've already spoken to Mr. Sidney. I spoke to the other candidates that you had as well. All my questions have been answered. Having said that, if there's no other, actually, Bob, you had your hand raised.
I was just wondering if as close as you work with these people on a daily basis, I would kind of like the board's opinion on whether or not you should excuse yourself in this discussion.
I will not entertain that because I work closely with them, but I am not a police officer, so therefore do not have to recuse myself from it. But I do appreciate the question.
Okay.
Does the board have any problems with me voting on this?
No.
Sir? All right. Having said that, I'll entertain a motion.
I would make a motion to appoint Mr. Alex Sidney a full-time police officer starting February 17th, 2018, as dismissed.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Welcome aboard, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll take a check.
Thank you.
Thank
Be
you.
safe, man. Thank you.
Congrats, Mr. Sidney.
Thank you.
Is your dad Paul?
No, that's my uncle.
That's your uncle. I knew him from my childhood days.
Yeah.
All right, next, request from chief to clarify overtime expense.
Okay, I'll keep it real brief. I know a couple weeks ago there was mention of the police overtime, and the figure that came out was, I believe it was 78%, and I'm sure a lot of people who are watching on TV, when they heard that number, were pretty surprised by it. What I would like to do is just take an opportunity to explain a little bit. I'm not sure that it was quite at 78%. I haven't seen the actual figures that were used to come up with that, but I can say that in regards to that, overtime has gone up, that is true. But particularly, it was in fiscal years 15 and 16, and in those 3 years, 2 years, we had one officer who was out injured on duty for about 7 months, and we had another officer who attended the academy for 6 months, and we also had an employee take Family Medical Leave Act for the duration of the time that was available. So those 3 issues really significantly impacted the overtime budget within the police department, and those hours had to be replaced at overtime. Now, the injured on duty status, a lot of that money was reimbursed to the town, certainly not all of it, and the hours were replaced at overtime, and they were reimbursed at straight time. So that while there was a significant increase, a lot of it was paid back, a high percentage of it was paid back. And we have seen a decrease in the overtime since then. And we continue to make efforts, and again, my issues come back to being able to retain and train and keep part-time personnel. That's a big issue.
Anything, Chuck? Just 2 questions. So Chief, I'm looking at this year's budget. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I will state that I asked you a question earlier this week and you clarified it for me and I made a mistake. Is this year's overtime budget around 99,000? Is that what I came up with a figure?
I didn't, I know our unallocated overtime, I believe, was 33,500.
I'm just, this budget, I'm just adding up anything that has overtime written next to it.
Yeah. I have to look, I mean, if you added it up, I would guess that that's probably,
And it does include dispatch, that's just patrol.
that's just patrol, yeah.
No, I'm saying I included dispatch, I included the whole department's.
Yeah, that's right, correct.
In my figure.
Yep.
So, just for clarity's sake, Bruce, yes or no? About 5 years ago, when we were going to add the 7th officer, which became now Detective Von Dauber, when I was on finance and the board that sat here, was it communicated to us that this would decrease overtime by you? Just a yes or no?
You can't answer the question yes or no, I think we both know that. I believe, and I don't recall the conversation, it would have had an impact on overtime, but I think at the time, the bigger option for us, or the bigger issue for us was that we couldn't fill the shifts. And that continues to be an issue. And issues like, an officer breaking his leg and being out for 7 months, or an employee taking, leave that's required by federal law, those are certainly things that are way beyond our control.
And I get that.
So I can't answer the question yes or no.
I appreciate that. So, I know you're making a push now to, I guess, hire more part-time?
I would like to hire more part-time, but the problem is that that money was taken out of the budget for this fiscal year, and we need to have it put back in.
Well, budget season's only a few weeks away. It starts up right after January 1. We'll be
It is, but
listening
one of the
again.
issues that I discussed with the other 2 board members is that if we wait until July 1st, it's gonna put us behind the 8 ball to get these people educated and field trained prior to Alex leaving for the academy. They're not gonna be available to work the hours. So we need to get that ball rolling prior to July 1st.
So would that mean that you're actually looking for either maybe an article or a transfer? I don't know if you have funds to transfer, but an article to fund?
I'm not gonna have the funds to transfer, I'd be looking for a reserve account transfer likely. So I'd like to get with the board and finance and discuss some options, but I had originally said 4, I think 3. We hired 4 last December, and of the 4 that we hired, we lost 3. Not 3 of that same crowd, that same group that was hired, but now we're losing Alex to full-time, and 1 officer resigned, and 1 officer that was hired before that also resigned. So we gained 4, we lost 3. So, and we've got officers that haven't worked a lot, we're looking at that also. I need to get some part-time people back on the roster.
Gotcha. That was it for me, sir.
And the disposal of the Crown Vic,
Yeah, discussion of surplus equipment.
We've got the new canine vehicle was retrofitted in Worcester, we've got that car back, and two things the board would be happy to hear is we got an additional grant to fund that. It paid for a significant part of that, which I believe I've spoken at a previous meeting. And the other thing is we've got the rest of the money is still in the Stanton Foundation grant, so we didn't require any town funds to retrofit this car. It is up and running, ready to go, and it's on the road. Now, the issue becomes the 2010 Crown Vic, which, as you know, we had some issues with. And in looking at the new policy that was distributed, I'll be honest with you, the car doesn't have any value. We offered it to MHQ in a trade, and what the MHQ told me was they would send a flatbed out, and they would pick it up and they would take it away, but they weren't going to give us any money for it. We've auctioned other cars through Copart, and it benefits us in two ways. We don't have to dedicate any time, town resources or money to auction the cars off. It is a public site. Anybody can bid on the cars if they want. And it also absolves us from any future problems regarding that car. And I know one of the issues that I just brought to the board was the last car we decommissioned was bought by a company in Nevada. It was abandoned in New Jersey. And we were called to come pick it up, and all we did was send them a copy of the bill of sale from Copart. It says contact the company in Nevada. So it no longer comes back on us. So that's a big benefit of the town. So what I'd like is I'd like the board's permission to use Copart again to decommission the 2010 Crown Vic.
Any questions?
So it's been offered to other departments, correct?
I put out an email. The cars, we're not sure how many miles it's got on it. I'm guessing between 225 and 250 or somewhere thereabouts.
As long as somebody wants it, it's gonna be auctioned, they're gonna advertise, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's advertised on the website.
Which meets the requirements under chapter 30B.
Yes, it
So-
does.
Okay.
Yeah. Mark?
No, you know, we've had the discussion, I know there's been interest expressed in some of the other vehicles we have at the town barn. That's a different issue. The car's not worth a plug nickel. Instead of having to pay somebody to take it away, if we can get $200 out of it, we get $200 out of it. I really don't see anybody that has any use for it. You know, if there was another department that says, you know, it's to that point where I just don't think the car has lived its life, let's put it that way.
I have no issues with it either, so I don't think we need to vote on it. Yeah, the agreement.
Well, according to the
We have to vote.
Have to
Yeah.
vote on it?
policy,
Entertain a
yeah, I
motion,
need
yeah.
permission from the board to dispose of it at Copart.
I'll make a motion to have the chief dispose of the 2010 Crown Victoria as discussed through Copart.
So moved. Second, sorry.
Motion's made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. I'm going to go outside with Mr. Zinni and have some discussion.
All right. We got 6 minutes. We do our treasury warrants and invoices.
Mr. Chair, I'd like a motion that we approve warrant number 46 in the amount of $38,672.47, and vendor warrant number 47 in the amount of $237,105.47, dated December 4th, 2017.
Oh, I'm sorry, second.
Motion's made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
New business. Mr. Richard?
Yeah, I got a couple of things, Mr. Chairman. One, I think, on behalf of the board, on behalf of the town of Warren, we'd like to thank all the folks that contributed to putting up all the decorations around town and the local businesses regarding the decorating committee. That is all done by volunteer work, and it is very much appreciated. The town looks very nice. Secondly, again, the clerk's office has had a history around this time of year of mailing Christmas packages to troops that are in the service. I just want to pass along the information that there was 24 small little care packages made up through the clerk's office with the help of Nancy and Laurie and Lisa from our cable company, along with Gracie from Carrie's daughter from the tax office, Rachel's kids from the Board of Health, and Dawn's from our treasurer's office. These people came in, they're ready to be shipped out tomorrow, and if anybody has known, anybody that has been on the receiving end of this is like winning the lottery. It is very, very much appreciated from the people that get these packages. And again, on behalf of the town, we'd like to thank the clerk's office for doing that. I had a meeting, planning board last night regarding the lot. It is what it is, the paperwork has to go through. I don't think I'll be allowed access to that site till after the first of the year, which pretty much puts a kibosh on. But I do want to remind that the parking lot is clear, and please, people in town, use it. It's there, it will be clean for the winter, and it is a much needed parking area. And lastly, I don't know, I haven't checked with anybody, and I don't want to end up committing to something that I don't know if it's going to happen, but as you can, people can see, the underpass is moving along very, very well. They were finishing the last of the sidewalks, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but it looks like the underpass will be back open very shortly, which is very good news. Otherwise, thank you.
All right. Mr. Nardi?
No, I'm good, thank you.
All right, I got a couple of things. There was an accident on 67 earlier this week that took out a Verizon box. So there's some people in the Western Warren and West Warren area that are without phones. Verizon has been diligently working on it. There are a tremendous amount of wires there for them to have to go through, but they are working on it. And one other thing is on the heels of a very successful 3-on-3 basketball tournament at the elementary school, which was in memory of the 3 youths which had passed. The elementary school is going to be holding a spaghetti supper on Friday, December 15th at Quabog from 5 to 7. There will be there'll be a 50-50 raffle, there'll be other raffles. All of this is going to fund scholarships in the names of the 3 youths who were taken from us far too early. Again, that is going to be Friday, December 15th at Quabog, a spaghetti supper from 5 to 7. And I'll have a flyer shortly coming over from Mr. Duff if you can get that onto the site. And that's what I got, and we are like a minute away.
You just want the cable access?
Yeah, we can put that on cable access as well. Oh, and no update from the engineer, but I did reach out to the engineer up at the cell tower to see if they had figured out where to put the pad. So as soon as I have something, I'll throw it on my page, and I'll also announce it at the next meeting. But hopefully that'll be done before the end of the year, unless they find something. Yes, Bob. Mr.
As far as
Bob.
the decorating committee goes, that's basically Jimmy McKeon. I don't think he has a lot of volunteers. He could use
Saw
a lot
Monica
of
helping.
volunteers. Excuse me?
So I think I saw Monica helping on a couple.
Yeah,
Maybe. That's not volunteer.
I've seen different people there.
Yeah, you did
The bridge in
like
West Warren,
Yep.
and the bridge over here is, yeah, Jimmy does a bulk. Jimmy ends up hauling a lot of the stuff around,
Yeah.
dropping it off of the people, but there is a slew of people that make it happen.
And it looks good. It does. Love it. All right, I'm gonna start about 30 seconds early for the 7:30 hearing.
she here?
Yes.
I see it.
Okay, there she is.
For poll hearing, National Grid and Verizon New England Inc., Southbridge and Cronin Road, vote expected. You're up.
Hi. Usually you read it and then if there's questions, I answer.
Dun, 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 dun. National Grid and Verizon New England Inc. request permission to locate poles, wires, and fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures along and across the following public way. Cronin Road, National Grid to install pole number 3-84 and anchor and install pole number 3-2. The work begins at a point approximately 325 feet north of the center line of the intersection of Southbridge Road and continues on approximately 25 feet in the north direction. Location approximately shown on plan attached. Wherefore it prays that after due notice and hearing as provided by law, it will be granted a location for and permission to erect and maintain poles and wires together with such sustaining and protecting fixtures as it may find necessary. Said poles to be erected substantially in accordance with the plan filed herewith marked Cronin Road, Warren, Massachusetts, 251-77072, October 24th, 2017. Also for permission to lay and maintain underground laterals, cables, and wires in the above or intersecting public ways for the purpose of making connections with such poles and buildings as each of said petitioners may desire for distributing purposes. Your petitioner agrees to reserve space for one crossarm at a suitable point on each of said poles for the fire, police, telephone, and telegraph signal wires belonging to the municipality and used by it exclusively for municipal purposes. This is for the solar field that they're putting in?
Nope, this is actually, pole 3-84
Yep.
is what we call a stub pole, and that's to replace a tree guy that is currently holding existing pole number 3 from being pulled over. And pole 3-2 is to serve a new home.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Any questions, sir?
Yep.
Any questions, sir?
No, as long as you explain that 3-2 pole, I'm all set.
All right, in which case then, I will entertain a motion to approve the poles on Southbridge and Cronin Road as read. And, I'll close the hearing first. I'll get
So
this
moved.
down eventually.
So moved.
I will second.
Motion's made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now,
Hmm?
now motion to approve the location.
Motion to approve the location, oh, okay, so moved. Motion to approve the location of the new pole by Verizon
Second.
National Grid.
And National Grid.
and National Grid.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hey, thanks for coming in again.
All right.
Jimmy. Oliver. Okay. You first.
All right, discussion slash clarification on town's social media policy. Mark, you wanted this, you wanna start in?
Well, I guess it's really just a, I should have requested that the members of the PD here, everybody understands this is the day and age of social media and emails and Facebook and all that stuff. But the nonsense that goes up on some of those websites has got to stop. It's embarrassing. It does nobody any good. It just fans the flames of discontent between certain departments. And we have policies. The policy was not written to prohibit anybody from expressing their opinion or to stifle anybody's First Amendment rights. But we're supposed to be adults here. Some of this stuff is just absolute nonsense. a vast majority has no basis in fact whatsoever. And people have to understand that there are certain things that when it comes before the board, that go into executive session, we are not allowed to talk about it. But I think that when we first started the policy, it was just basically to ask people to act like an adult, treat your peers with a little courtesy, and stop trashing the town. It is very, very irritating to have somebody, an employee of this town, that since has been an employee as this town has not had one positive thing go up on that website. The board, after we instituted the policy, the police department came up and expressed concerns about tying their hands because some of the investigations are done by setting up fake Facebooks to entrap some people to find out who's after some child molestation and drug activity, this and that, and the board immediately sat down and gave the police department an addendum expressly citing that fact that we are not here to tie your hands, but what it basically comes down to, it's gotta stop. I know right now it is very, very vague, but I have been in conversations with town council, and me personally, I've had enough. And if we have to start having disciplinary hearings and taking and holding people accountable, that's what we're gonna do. It's not only in the social media policy, everybody is, upon hiring, this is the personal bylaw. It is the policy of the town of Warren that all employees should be treated fairly, courteously, and with respect. Conversely, each employee is expected to accord the same treatment to his associates, supervisors, subordinates, and the public. Some of the nonsense that goes up on there lately is not only false, it's an embarrassment. And I just wanted to go on record to saying that me personally, I've had enough, and I'm gonna start holding people accountable. That was the reason I wanted on the agenda, Mr. Chairman. You know, it's one thing to air your thoughts and your concerns and your comments, that's one thing. But this is not the way this is supposed to be handled. I hope people start acting a little bit more like an adult and be treated the way that they were going to be treated. That's all I have to say, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Nardi, anything? I have nothing either. Sir?
Have the department heads and this board agreed to these rules?
Everyone has signed the policy.
That was my question.
Yep.
I think, you know, we're charged with the ability to set policy, so if we set policy, regardless if they agree with it or not.
Well,
the board,
Yeah, expected to be followed.
you know, we have the authority to do so. So if we set the policy, individuals may not agree with it, or they may ask for clarification, but, you know, that's why we had this in a meeting here to discuss the policy in general. John had brought up some comparisons to other policies in other surrounding communities, so, you know, we try to bring it before everybody and, you know, have the opportunity to come in and speak about it, but once the three of us vote and it was unanimous, it's now the policy, just like with disposal of surplus equipment. You know, so it's, you may not, some people may not like it, but it's the policy, and their time to come in and speak about it was well before we voted on it, in my opinion.
And you know, if there's a concern and there's a comment, and you have factual, without just throwing out a lot of accusations, that you're very welcome to get on the agenda anytime. But this nonsense about comments and concerns turning into a 25-minute roundabout, it's gotta stop. We're here to do business. Not sit here and have a roundtable about everybody's issues. That's it.
Okay. Moving on, we've got new business already done, comments and concerns.
She can go first.
All right. Ms. Soltis?
Will the police union put out a statement to the news media that there was no asbestos found in the booking room?
I'm not sure, you'll have to ask them.
I know, I wish they didn't leave.
I believe they're right out in the hall.
No, they're not.
Okay, well, I would speak with them about that.
Okay, I have one other thing. The word was put out that the Friends of the Town Hall were involved with putting up the signs that said danger asbestos on the Town Hall building.
Okay, that's
I
news to
went
me,
to it.
but go ahead.
I went to a meeting last night with the Friends, and I asked them if any of them had received a call from the chief of police, and they said no. I was the only one that had received a call from the chief of police. And is it normal, which I wanted to ask him, operating procedure to conduct an investigation by phone? I mean, why would he be calling me? I'm not the president.
Okay, that's twice now, you've asked questions that we, as
I
a
know,
board, can't
I know.
answer. So I'm not sure what you want from us.
Well, I want to go to the public and I want to ask anybody that's watching if they had seen anyone in the area of the town hall on Sunday between 2 and 2:20 during the tree lighting ceremony to please come forward, because we had nothing to do with putting those signs on the doors.
I'll take your word for it. No,
Sure.
shoot, okay. Is that all?
That's it for
Okay,
now.
she had her hand first, and then I'll go to you, Mr. Bott.
Whatever.
Yes, Ms. Pavini.
About 2 or 3 meetings ago, we had addressed lines on Parkview, and we were told that that was gonna be done. We were just wondering what the status is on that.
Did we get anything back from
We spoke to Tom Boudreau, the highway surveyor, and
Not wide
he's,
enough.
and he said it's not wide enough.
Okay.
He can't put lines. So, is there any go slow signs or anything?
I don't know.
I mean, it is dangerous around that.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
I know
It is.
that, I know that I spoke with the chief about it. I'll speak with him again, just to make sure we get, especially during the school times.
It's dangerous in the morning going
Yeah.
to work, I'm sorry.
And it's not a real
Well,
sidewalk. I worry about the
Hopefully,
kids.
hopefully we won't have to worry about it within the next few days, because it looks like they're getting very close to being done down there, which would make
That would
life a
be
lot
great.
easier. Is that all?
That's it.
Okay. Mr. Bob?
Did Mr. Nardi not say in correspondence, did they got a report from whoever about asbestos, that there's no asbestos down there?
Yes. Yes. She wanted the news media. That's what she had asked for.
Well, it went on the news when they found the asbestos in the tile falling down.
I have no clue. But, okay. Yes.
I would like to know if they're anywhere near solving the, police salary issue that was going on,
Very
the
close.
overtime.
Very close.
Now, the public will be, made
Yes,
aware of that.
everybody,
Is
once
that-
it's done, everyone will be made aware, but during the
Yeah,
negotiations.
well, no, there hasn't been any mention of
No.
it, so I just wanted to know.
No, we are still talking, the talks are going well, and we hope to have a resolution very soon. Yes, Beverly?
Did dispatch, remove their complaint from, the issue? Wasn't dispatch had an issue too with their?
Once everything is done, we'll discuss it.
Okay.
But until such time, I really can't discuss any facet of it. All right, but once it's all said and done, everyone will be made aware.
Is there a time frame?
As soon as it's done is the best I can tell you, because it's fluid. And then something may change, and then that will add a little bit of time to it.
Right now, the lawyers have it.
Yeah, right now the lawyers have it. But everybody's in discussion. Mr. Burrell?
Quick question for the board. If I had internet service, I could find my answer, but, so I was aware of something that the chief just said. One of the things, because he mentioned that he had that canine car.
He's not here, so you know you can't discuss him, right? We won't be
That's
discussing
no
the
written
chief with
policy.
him not here. But go ahead.
Okay, well, I can just make a statement if you want.
Absolutely.
Okay. It is my understanding that the facility in Worcester, if you go to their website, I don't remember the exact name of it, but if you go to their website, it lists Officer Keith Nicholas as the salesperson for that.
Keith Nicholas isn't here either.
Well, I understand that, but,
Okay.
so I don't know if there's any conflict of interest issue there or not. I mean, I'm just, because Officer Nicholas is an employee of the police department, and he's also the salesperson, if this is the place I'm thinking of that facility in Worcester that he just had the canine car done. So maybe there's no issue, but I just, but if I could go on the internet, I'd find, because if you go to the website, it lists Keith Nicholas as the salesperson, so. And the second thing, just very simple, and I'll say this is nothing personal, but I just wanted to bring something to the board's attention, and nothing to do with any of you. Regarding the officer that was just in here, he issued me a traffic citation.
He's not in here, we're not gonna discuss him. Bottom line.
Okay,
No.
I'll make a statement then, and I'll
Then you
leave
can
it
make your
out.
statement.
Okay, so my question is this. I now have the court transcript of what happened. The Warren police officer testified that.
All right, again, we're not going down the road.
Well, I'm just making
No,
a statement.
we're done now, thank you.
Okay,
next?
well, I'll
Sir,
say,
you're
I
done.
want a
You speak again, you're out of order.
$35,000 settlement then
Go
from
away.
the officer for writing false.
You're out of order, sir. You need to leave now.
I'm not leaving.
I
Oh, come
will
on, give me a
entertain a
break.
recess, we'll have him removed. It's your choice. We're not gonna turn the
All right,
circus
fine,
back
I'll
on.
apologize, I'm
All
sorry.
right, then stay quiet.
I will, thank you.
Okay,
All right, I'm good, thank you.
next. Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay. Next meeting will be December 19th, 2017 at 7 p.m. And having said that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor?
Let me make that.
Aye.
No, my attorney wants-
Did you raise your hand? I didn't see you raise your hand. You normally raise the hand bar. You wait for me to say Bueller, then you raise your hand.
I never, that's what.
Because I'm trying to see if we can get some